Hello and welcome. My name is Steve Pugh. It's Monday, the 30th of May, I believe. We're almost at the bank holiday. I can't wait. It's going to be a 3-day week this week. I do something called a growth strategy podcast where I try and introduce you to interesting people that can help your business or career. John, today, I can hear his email going off in the background. It's okay. It's fine. Basically, I've been trying to get on for a while, and John is the chief exec of North East of England Chamber of Commerce. And what we're going to do is help share John's story, his backstory, how he got into PR and kind of marketing, all about the chamber, what they're about, what they do in the community, why we love the North East of England. We're going to talk a little bit about the Champions League and Liverpool FC. And generally just have a conversation for the next kind of half an hour, 40 minutes. If you want to join us, that'd be brilliant. And then likewise, actually, if you send any comments, they should come up as well. And I'd love to ask them as well. So John, I'm just going to bring you in. There we go. People can now see you and hear you.
Hi, Steve. Good to see you.
Good. Would you be happy to give a quick kind of 30, 60 second intro just on Cilla Black style, who you are, where you're from?
Yeah, sure thing. Well, it's good to see you, Steve, and thanks for this. So I've been Chief Executive of North East England Chamber of Commerce now for about 8 months. I was appointed or took over in early October. I'm also, outside of my day job, I'm a trustee of the Prince's Trust in the North East, which is a fabulous charity that a lot of your viewers will know does a lot of work around education and employment and enterprise to help young people sort of take those first steps on their careers. I'm also a trustee of a small charity that I'd be surprised if any of your viewers have heard of, called the Millfield House Foundation, which is a very small but perfectly formed charity that works with strategic partners by funding them to do policy work, looking at causes and how we can solve problems around poverty and inequality in the North East. So plenty there to keep me busy.
Well, hopefully, if we've got time, because I know you've got this dinner to go to, so I know you are busy. We can talk about all three, which would be cool. So can we start on football, just because it was what I stayed up to watch on Saturday night. You're a big Liverpool fan. How has this season been? Because it's almost that I remember back in the day, Liverpool have had a lot of highs and lows. In the 80s, massive, and peaks and troughs. And then for me, since Jurgen Klopp joined, which now was 6 years ago, it's just his leadership style, what they seem to do with the team, the consistency, to go for 4 trophies in one season. As a Liverpool fan, how do you kind of find it? What's it like at the moment?
It's been brilliant. I mean, he's such a fantastically passionate, enthusiastic character who's done a phenomenal job with the team. And there's never a dull moment if you're a Liverpool fan. It's kind of, we're either way up or we're way down, and there's very little sort of in between. And we won 2 trophies this season. So if you'd offered us that at the start of the season, I'm sure we would have snapped your hands off. Saturday evening was a real disappointment for all sorts of reasons. But yeah, we had a pretty good season altogether. Yeah. It
is quite funny, actually. That come about 40 minutes into the game, I think it was 8 shots on target. And it was just, you knew it was just going to be one of those nights, and it was just...
It kind of had that feeling about it, yeah.
So we've known each other I remember the first time we met, it was at a hotel event up north. I think it was kind of Alnwick-ish way, and obviously I've followed your progress for kind of quite a while, and it's just great to kind of get you on and have a chat. That we tried to do this a while back, but you had your first 100 days in office kind of thing, and you had a whole PR campaign. And what I love about this is the fact that it is slightly longer form content. You can have more of a genuine chat about how things are going and that kind of thing. But before we go into kind of that kind of thing, one of the things that I love to do is find out a bit more about you and your background and stuff.
Okay.
So where are you from?
So I was born and brought up in North Shields.
Okay.
Yeah. Spent all of my childhood actually in and around North Shields. I now live just outside of Ponteland, so haven't moved too far. I've spent most of my life living and working in the North East. This small interlude where I was down in the East Midlands for a period, but other than that, always from living and working in the North East. But North Shields, doesn't matter where I go, I still consider North Shields home, really.
I've got to ask, what's the Liverpool FC connection?
My dad, who's no longer with us, my dad was a big Liverpool fan, and his dad was, and so it's all I've ever known. I mean, so as a kid growing up in the 70s,
Rush era and Kenny's
Oh,
Daglish.
pre and Rush, yeah. I go back pre and Rush, yeah. I'm older than I look, Steve. And
How old are you?
I'll be 50 in July.
You know, to be fair, you don't look 50.
Oh, we should have done this much longer.
You could
much
pass
earlier,
anywhere, I think. I think even the high 30s, I think you could get away with. You'd be surprised.
Can we just stop the interview now? That's brilliant. We'll leave it there. I'll take that. Thank you.
I think on Zoom you've got the filter on, which I'm sure.
Anybody who works with me will know I do not know how to put a filter on Zoom or anything else. I can assure you that's not the case, but that's very kind of you. Perhaps the hair is not as grey as it looks in real life, but other than that, yeah.
The funny thing is, though, so I'm 39 in about a month's time. And it's funny that if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I'd worry about going grey and whatever. But now it's distinguished. It is what it is. But realistically as well, I think it's an age thing. You get less bothered with appearance as you get older, because it's about personality and character and what people do and stuff. But but you do also get some rough looking 20-year-olds now. So it's a broad church, I think.
Well, when you look like this, you've got to rely on personality and character. So
same. So what were you like growing up? What were you like at school?
Very chatty. I think all of my school reports said if John put as much energy into his into the various sort of subjects as he does into chatting, he'd be kind of top of the class in everything. So very, very chatty, very sporty, played pretty much every sport that came my way, took every opportunity to, a reasonable footballer, really good runner. Back in the day, I was kind of pencil thin and really, really good runner back in the day. Swimming, bit of cricket. So I would just play any golf. I'd play any sport I could. Always outdoors, always mucking about with sport. And just a really sort of happy, enjoyable childhood. Yeah, just really enjoyed school and all that. Yeah.
How were you with your academics? Were you a SWAT, or were you kind of a little bit rebellious? The reason why I ask is that, I've done about 90 of these interviews now, and often mostly kind of entrepreneur type people, but the similarities are uncanny. It doesn't matter if someone was born and bred in a council estate in Middlesbrough or whatever. A lot of people that go on to entrepreneurial type positions or senior positions are very, very similar. And that's what I find incredible. So were you rebellious or?
I certainly wasn't rebellious. No, I was, I think, as I say, in a positive way, I think I was probably quite disruptive in that I love to chat and I love to get a giggle out of people. So, with a joke or an impression of a teacher or something like that. But I at the time, if you'd asked me at the time, I would have thought I tried really hard in school. I can look back now and think, actually, I could have given so much more, and I wish I had. But no, I was never really in trouble for anything. I never,
you didn't steal cars or anything.
Oh God, no. No, nothing like that. But chatty and sporty, I think, would be the two main things. Yeah.
But both of those, they're great skills to have, and this is something that really, it's silly, but you went into business development and sales, and that kind of thing, and especially what you do now, you are the spokesperson for a region in many ways. But you never get told as a child how being chatty can be really positive and useful as a skill as much as maths or anything else. And it's, again, funny how when you look at the school system when you're a little bit older, you realize a lot of the life skills that you develop have nothing to do with school, but yet they'll arguably take you further than A-level physics kind of thing. So
yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah.
So did you go to uni?
I didn't know. As I said, I didn't apply myself as much as I thought I was at school. And I had a very, very happy upbringing, very safe and secure upbringing. My parents didn't have anything at all really materially, but they gave me everything emotionally, and in terms of support, love, and all of that. But what that meant was, and I don't say this as an excuse, but what that meant was there wasn't high aspirations in the family, so I have two sisters, they didn't go to university. There was no kind of, aspiration. And as I said, I don't use that as an excuse, because I had other friends in my friendship group who came from very similar backgrounds, who did go on and, go to university and have carved out some brilliant careers for themselves. But but no, I mean, I sort of developed my education later on in different jobs that I had.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't follow that usual path, if you like.
But the funny thing is and I have nephews now. One is going to Sheffield, where I went in October. And then his brother, who's slightly younger, kind of wants to be a chef. And it's really funny that I'm someone that spent a lot of time in universities and done different stuff.
Yeah.
And genuinely honest, I'm not sure I would recommend someone to go. You have to be the right animal and want to do something that you need the skills that you can kind of. So if you want to be a technical engineer, to do mechanical engineering as I do, you kind of need to learn that in a university setting for design type stuff, or a solicitor, or that kind of thing, an accountant. But for most jobs, marketing or whatever, I personally prefer people with hands-on skills. I know so many people that have PhDs and they're useless. And there's a huge difference between real world practical skills of people that get stuff done and certificates. And the point is, almost like, we don't have kids, but I don't think that it should be the usual expected route for most people. And it's really fascinating that a lot of people, and you've obviously gone on to have an incredible career without doing it. And that's part of the reason why I love to do this, because again, you have a lot of people that don't like school and don't want to do that path, but they still want to be ambitious and do stuff. And I think that's why it's really good to kind of talk.
Don't get me wrong, I wish I had, because if I look back, as I say, I remember, not that I gave them very much, but my parents would always tell me how proud they were of me and all the rest of it. And in a way, I think I probably for too long felt that if I did follow that sort of path, it would almost be denying who and what I was and where I was from and all of that. And it really wouldn't have been. And that, was almost a kind of a light bulb moment, if you like, in my life, that actually it really wouldn't have been. I could still be the same kid growing up from the same background, and go on to do those things that hadn't been done typically in my family. And that was a bit of a light bulb moment. And that's why I take such, I've got three children of my own now. Two of them have gone through university, got great jobs themselves now. My youngest daughter's halfway through her GCSEs now. And I love the fact that they are kind of they are going in that direction. But I kind of wish I'd just sort of allowed myself to explore that possibility when I chose not to, basically.
Well, you've done all right, put it that way.
Thank you.
But it's funny that with I think the people that I've spoke to who run their own business or doing loads of different things, one of the ladies was homeless at 24, and it's almost it makes no difference what your academic background is. It's the skills, it's the drive, it's what you want to do. And I just think it's important to kind of talk about. So you've got a really impressive kind of career journey, which spans quite a few different things. Would you be happy to kind of whistle stop through us to the point where you kind of started your own business? Is that cool?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So it's interesting you put it that way, because I do kind of consider my career to have gone in phases. So first job was Northumbrian Water Group, which was kind of an apprenticeship, but it wasn't called an apprenticeship at the time. I think it was during that period when apprenticeships weren't really kind of the done thing. So it looked and sounded a lot like an apprenticeship, but without having that title. So that again allowed me to sort of continue my education as well. So I went into sort of do other qualifications while I was doing that job. And I got into their PR department as a kind of a, try this out, see what you think of it, see what they think of you. And I didn't leave it for 5 years. So I loved that. I had a great grounding there, brilliant, experienced, talented people I was working with, and exposed at a very early junior level to the highest levels of management and leadership in the business as well. And that, I just thought, if I've been given this opportunity, I'm just going to soak that up. I'm just going to take on board as much as I possibly can from that opportunity. So first few years in PR with Northumbrian Water, then I went to a public relations agency in Newcastle, which was a big agency at the time, which was again just another 5 years of great experience, total sort of variation. That was great. And then back in-house when I moved out to East Midlands with Transco, which was then the gas emergency service for the UK. And then when I moved back to the Northeast, it was started to get more into sort of the next phase, if you like, which was more kind of public affairs and stakeholdery type stuff. So that was with Newcastle Building Society, and then ultimately with a company called Alcan. I was their corporate affairs director for the UK, so all their plants across the UK. It was basically my job to try and shape legislation to keep these places open. So lobbying at the highest levels of the British government, highest levels of the European Commission, European Parliament, all of that. And yeah, I remember when I got the job at Alcan I started in January 2002. At the end of 2001, a friend of mine said, well, they're going to close next year. And I said, well, that's kind of my job, to try and make sure they don't. And we got about another, 12 years out of that before eventually the parent company at the time decided enough, we're going to close in the UK. So I unfortunately ended up being made redundant, along with many hundreds of other really brilliant people at all levels across that business in the UK. And I thought, well, I need something to pay the mortgage, so I'll do a bit of consultancy work for 12 months, and then I'll get another proper job. And
you never
consultancy work became a business, and then it went from kind of step to step. Sort of started to think, well, I can't do this all myself. I need to hire people. So we started to sort of build a team. The business grew and grew, diversified into doing one or two slightly different things to expand the offering to clients. So that business lasted about 9.5 years before I got the chamber job. So what I thought was going to be 12 months of just ticking over to pay the mortgage became, a business for 12.5 years before the chamber job came up.
Because I always found it fascinating that you have, I think the most recent stats, it's above 50% of people now would consider starting their own business. And I'm always interested that I almost was similar how I started, was that I had lots of paid jobs.
Yeah.
And then I was offered another job, but it didn't feel right. And so I started to just do consultancy and kind of roll off. But I think, did you ever want to, or was it just circumstantial and it just happened to work out? Or did you have a fire inside you that you kind of wanted to do your own thing a few years in advance? No,
Steve, honestly, I didn't. I had no aspiration or desire to run my own business at all. I loved the security of being in a big business. So I'd gone from, I'd worked for some big business employing lots of people, and the security of that. And then ironically, of course, I ended up facing the opposite end of that when I lost my job, along with all the other people when those sites in the UK were closed through Alcan. So that security was just kind of switched off overnight. So I always had massive admiration and respect for people who did run their own business, but never thought that was for me. So it was out of necessity. It was never kind of the plan. I never had a career plan, but yeah, that wouldn't have been in it.
Can I ask you about how, because it's a step that I haven't done yet, and actually I'm not sure I will, but when you first, did you ever take on staff?
Yeah.
What was the emotional decision, or was it easy for you to think, you know what, I'm going to take Sally and actually be responsible? Because this is the thing that gets me. It's to know that I am responsible for someone else's mortgage, families, holidays, Christmases, that I would prefer to just run a different type of business, but not have that pressure. Because I'm someone that really emotionally feels stuff that actually I wouldn't enjoy it. So I have mad respect for anyone that does or has. And I just wondered how you found that process.
No, I completely understand that. I was exactly like that. As I said, because I've never had that desire to start my own business. It was never about, I want to grow a business and I want to employ 100 or 1,000 people or whatever. It was never like that. So probably the toughest decision I took in the 9.5 years was hiring the first member of the team. And then, after that, it was like, well, okay, this is working. So it made the second one easier, which made the third one easier. But the first one was a really, decision I really agonized over for exactly the reasons you've described, that all of a sudden you're running something which is essentially paying somebody else's mortgage. And therefore, if you screw it up, it's not just you that's kind of in the barrel, it's somebody else as well. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal, yeah. Because
the thing that I always gets me, so a lot of my background is offshore energy stuff, and it's big, high risk stuff that if it goes wrong, it goes really wrong. And I hate that. It's as silly as that. I'm someone that I do worry about the details, and you do get personality types that just seem immune to pressure or stress. And it's funny that, again, part of the reason why I love to talk to people is just to pick people's brains and find that, because again, you have different characters of animals and types of, even football managers, you have different types of people that lead in different ways. But often you never really see anyone talk about it. You see all of the, I'm a great leader and look at our success, but actually it's the decisions and the stuff behind it. I think people that are kind of in the game find most interesting. It's the honest humility and answer that you kind of get with video that you don't get with other stuff. So one of my questions, but it kind of leads into it really well, is that I'm going to ask you about the chamber and what it is that you do. But the reason, what the link is that because of your business background, I think hopefully that really helps you do what you do, and that kind of thing. The fact that you understand businesses in the region and the challenges and stuff. But if we talk about the chamber first, what is it?
What is it? So
just so I know what it is, but in case someone on the YouTube discovers this and doesn't know, I don't want you to think that I'm an idiot who got you on. Just say.
No, that's totally fine, Steve. We are, so the North East England Chamber of Commerce is one of 53 accredited chambers across the UK. Most chambers of commerce are city or county based, but our patch covers kind of the North Northumberland Scottish borders right down to North Yorkshire Tees Valley border, and kind of all points in between. We represent everything from that business that I set up 9.5 years ago, where it was just owner manager from the dining room table sort of thing, to the biggest employers in the region, multinational companies exporting all over the world, all of that. So right across every sector of the economy, pretty much right across the whole of the Northeast. And we exist basically to enable businesses in the region to be part of something bigger, and to expand, obviously to help them raise their profiles, but to expand their networks, to develop their knowledge and understanding of policy and opportunities that they face, and how we can help them work around particularly sort of regulatory issues, if you like. But for some of our members, it's about access to things like our events program. I think this year we're putting on more than 300 events this year, and that's everything from, again, quite small networking sort of events where it's just people in a room together sharing their experiences with one another, all the way up to our kind of big sort of presidents' lunches with high-profile speakers and 200 people in the room, to our annual dinner with 800 people in Durham Cathedral, and our Inspiring Females Awards, our Chamber Business Awards, which are coming up in July. So there's an event really for every level of membership. We do a lot of events around kind of, if you like, our knowledge offering. So we'll bring in an expert speaker who can talk to a group of our members about a particular subject. Just last week, we had a speaker who, on the face of it, you'd think this is going to be really quite dry. It was the Professor of Supply Chain Management from Cranfield University. This guy was absolutely brilliant. I mean, he was one of the most engaging speakers I've ever heard. Really, really impressive guy. So by being part of the chamber, you've got access to all of that. And then importantly as well, coming back to that thing about being part of something bigger, particularly for small businesses, we can hopefully provide them with something that they might not have themselves in-house. So, for example, if you are a chamber member of any size, you've got access to our 24-hour hotline, which can give you HR support, legal support, tax, health and safety support. We can support you with, if you're trading internationally, we can support you with the sort of documentation that you need to have in place to do all of that successfully. So again, smaller businesses might not have that in-house, but by being part of the chamber, they've got access to that. And that's all part of their membership. What we do in our chamber is, once you're a member, that's it. You've got access to all of that. There's no kind of sell on, if you like. There's nothing else to sort of buy into. That's all part of what we're there to deliver for you. So it's fundamentally about enabling businesses to be better, to grow, to continue to sort of develop in the region by being part of something bigger that kind of holds the whole of the region together.
Yeah, okay. Because what I always think is quite funny is that I'm fortunate in some ways, because over the course of my career, I spent 3.5 years in regional government. I've been in different private sector businesses, different sizes. I've done my own thing. Yeah. But actually, when you talked before about lobbying, government stakeholder engagement, that kind of thing, I don't think people always realize this is, so I'm based on Team Valley. So I'm surrounded by thousands of other businesses of different sizes. But it's how important it is to have someone like yourself to lobby and champion the region to make sure that we get considered on policy decisions, because someone somewhere is looking at, okay, so as a government, we have £100 billion. How do we allocate it? And I think it's really important to have someone to actually, or a body or a group of bodies that say, look, don't forget about us. Our strengths are in automotive, offshore energy, tech, and whatever. and to keep banging that drum. Because I know in the past, you know, the worry always is that the money goes down south, it goes to other regions that are sexier or whatever. And I think people don't always see the benefit in that just because they don't have an awareness of it. But it's so important. And I didn't know how much of your job as the big boss now is doing that kind of thing to really be a voice of the region.
It's probably the single biggest part of it, actually, Steve. I mean, you used the term there that I use, that a big part of the job is banging the drum for the region. And that's probably the best bit. You know, that's the bit that I like the best, you know, where I'm able to talk about a business that's doing particularly well or innovating in a particular way, or it's kind of really at the sort of, you know, the sharp end of its market. And that's brilliant when we're able to talk about that. But a big part of the job as well is to shine a light on those parts of the economy that aren't working so well, and shine a light on those aspects of the region where, you know, if we just had a bit of government policy shaped another way, and sometimes it can mean, you know, a line in a bit of legislation written in a different way. Sometimes it can mean requiring Treasury to put their hands in their pockets a little bit more than they do. But you know, we've got to demonstrate it's not just about us saying to government, please help us with that. What we've got to say on the region's behalf is the why. You know, why do we need support with that, and the purpose of it. So, you know, if you help us with this, this is what it will deliver. This is what it will unlock. This is the benefit it will release to the rest of the UK. So a big part of the job is banging that drum, which is brilliant. But then a part of the job as well is to kind of hold government's feet to the fire as well. And that doesn't matter which party's in government. We're totally politically neutral, got no kind of sway one way or the other on anything like that. It's just about kind of holding the government's feet to the fire to make sure we get the best possible deal for the North East.
This is a seamless segue, by the way. But we've had a comment in from Thailand, but the point is, it's how people do see stuff from the internet. We are part of a genuinely global part of the world, I guess. And, you know, I think, are we still the UK's main or only net exporting region?
If not the only, certainly there's
the
not
important
many
one
of them, and you know, again, that's important. I mean, that's you know, it's a big part of this region's offer that we face east with ports, you know, all the way down our coastline. We've got two brilliant international airports, you know, so that's part of our offer, and that's, you know, we've got brilliant businesses that export their products and services around the world really successfully. But we've also got a big cohort of businesses that are just on the cusp of exporting and just need that little bit more support that hopefully we provide them with, just to help them take that first step into it. And once they've done it, again, that's just, you know, kind of releasing them to global markets, which is just brilliant to see. Because
I think that's my big thing. It's my kind of working class roots. It's the underdog spirit that I kind of just want to fight for the little guy. It's me. And what I love is that it's that balance again of how, as a region, can we really try and thrive to sell into Thailand and sell into different parts of the world, because we can, if that makes sense. Yeah, and even when from Newcastle, when we got the Dubai flight, Emirates, I used to do that quite a lot to the Middle East, but it genuinely does open up the world in that part of the region. And then likewise, when a lot of people are looking to invest in the northeast of England for loads of different reasons, we're a great touch point. There's low labour costs and available space. And it's really fascinating that, again, the further you go through your career, you start to see how the jigsaw pieces fit together. And I know a lot of people won't care or they don't see it, but I get it. And that's why I just wanted to kind of ask you about it. Behind you on your screen, you have beautiful Durham Cathedral.
Yeah.
What is it for you? And obviously you grew up here. What is it that makes the Northeast special?
Steve, it's the cliched answer, I guess. It starts with people. You know, we've just got brilliant people in this region. Got some, you know, brilliant ingenuity in the region and creativity and resilience. And it's the place, but place is nothing without the people. So, you know, yes, we've got brilliant businesses, but there's great people behind those businesses. And then, you know, we've got 5 fantastic universities, great FE colleges. Socially, you look at, you know, what a brilliant sort of place this is to sort of spend your leisure time, and you know, whether you're sort of out at the coast, out in the country. Nighttime economy is fantastic. So I genuinely don't think there's a better region of the UK to, you know, everything that people talk about: live, learn, work, and play. I mean, it's it's about people first, and then place. But when you put those two together, that's gold dust. Then, yeah.
I was in town on Saturday, and it was I was amazed at how busy it was. And what's really silly is that me and my wife, we walk, so I live in Lowfell, and we walk into town, get a coffee every Saturday and just kind of enjoy the surrounding area. And I love seeing people with suitcases on hen do's or stag do's, because it's all tourism, it's life, it's passion. It's great to see that, because there's other parts of the UK that don't have that. And it's great to see a thriving economy. But would you be happy to almost, because you'll know it better than I do, obviously we've had COVID. We had, 2.5 years of challenge. How have you felt the region was both impacted and also started to recover? I know it's a deep question, so you don't have to answer all of it.
No, it's fine. It's a really important question. We went into the pandemic with inequalities both in the economy but also in society when you compare this region to other regions of the UK. And the pandemic obviously didn't help with any of that. And therefore it's made it harder for our region to come out of the pandemic economically and socially. So all those gaps, all those inequalities that existed when we went in, they're still there now. Most of them are probably wider than they were before. Again, if you look at, on a day-to-day basis, how the region kind of stepped up. Again, this conversation is obviously a lot about business and about what business does, but we had businesses across the Northeast that, I'm trying to avoid using the word pivot because everyone was talking about pivoting during the pandemic, but sort of switch their manufacturing processes to go from manufacturing widgets to manufacturing PPE or hand sanitizer or whatever it was. So those businesses just did a phenomenal job. You look at what our health service did to kind of keep the show on the road, keep as many of us as possible healthy, to keep the show on the road for when we came out the other side. I think our local authorities did a really good job in kind of coordinating the sort of emergency effort to respond to COVID, and even things like, again, bringing it back to business, the support that government made available to businesses through local authorities. I think our councils in the Northeast were amongst the fastest to get that money actually out to businesses, so out to where it was needed most. So that was all a brilliant effort. But I come back to, there were inequalities that existed before, and they haven't got any better since, because how could they during a pandemic? So, things around, whether it's childhood poverty or some wage differentials or whatever it might be that were there before are still there now, but probably worse.
Yeah, it's tough. What I was, one of my pet peeves that you see in politics, I know we're talking about politics, but it's the fact that whoever was in power, they've got a tough gig to try and get through it, because there were so many challenges. And the big thing about the pandemic, so it was almost nobody knew what to do because everyone was learning on the fly, and it was a tough gig for everyone. But almost, I think because of that, everyone was almost willing to, chip in and just get through it. And I think that's a British thing, but it's, but relating to what you were saying about almost people's backgrounds and poverty and different, that kind of thing, would you be happy to talk about the Prince's Trust a little bit?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, no, it's the Prince's Trust work is really important to me. So I'm a member of what's called the Development Committee in the Northeast. So basically, we meet and work with the Prince's Trust in-house team in the same way that any non-exec group works with an executive group to provide support and guidance and counsel and all of that. But it's a genuine privilege to be involved with the Prince's Trust, because it does. I don't know if you saw the awards ceremony that was televised just last week, where Ant and Dec, who are sort of Prince's Trust ambassadors, hosted that in London. But I'm very lucky in this role, along with my fellow trustees, to get the chance to occasionally meet some of the young people who the trust has supported with. It might be just a program to help them with their self-confidence, or a program to help them with achieve a qualification or get into a first job, or in many cases to start their own business. And again, you just need to kind of, very often you just need to find that spark in a young person, and just it's not hand holding with them, it's just helping unlock that one little thing, whatever it might be, or it might be something bigger, and it might be a number of different things. But the trust makes all sorts of kind of interventions and works with young people to really help them achieve their full potential in life. And it's just so incredibly rewarding. And as I say, nothing better. We had a celebration event in the Prince's Trust Centre in Newcastle a few weeks ago, and the building was packed. I mean, it was packed to the rafters. It was great, post-COVID, and everything was sort of safe and all that. But it was packed to the rafters. And we had a number of young people who just set up sort of stalls, selling and promoting their wares and talking about the businesses that they'd started. And it was just life affirming. I mean, genuinely, it was just inspiring to come away from that, just thinking, wow, we've got to do what we can to help these young people achieve their full potential.
No, I love it. And it's one or two different decisions, and I could have took some of the, a lot of people have different backgrounds, some left school or whichever, but the one thing that almost gets me is that, again, going back to the education system, it's almost where if you drop out of school, that's it. There's a lot of stigma that goes with different stuff, but it doesn't mean they're bad people. Do you know what I mean? And it's funny that it's I love what the Prince's Trust do and that kind of thing. And again, I was in Cubs and Scouts growing up, but like you have Duke of Edinburgh, and obviously this week we've got the Platinum Jubilee. But I think sometimes, I know some people don't rate or like or don't think we should have a royal family, but actually the good that they've done in community, I'd love it. And obviously the Prince's Trust, and it's that kind of thing of it sounds really silly because I'm not a royalist, but when the Queen eventually dies, God love her, I'll be devastated. She's been there for so long through so many different governments and wars and stuff. I think in many ways she is what glues the country together. And it's just fascinating, but the good work that, trickles down to do in Prince's Trust and stuff as well. Yeah. What was the other charity that you mentioned in the intro?
So it's a small charity called the Millfield House Foundation.
What do they do?
So basically it was set up many years ago through an endowment fund, and I'm also on its investment committee, and we sit and work with our sort of investment advisors looking at kind of ethical investments to help grow the fund. So we work with at the moment 5, but there's no kind of cap on how many it might be, but 5 strategic partners to fund work that they do to look at policy around poverty and inequality in the region. So looking at what are the causes, what's the effect of that, and what can we do to try and put that right? What would it take to put it right? And just the way we're structured, trustees can kind of partner with one of our strategic partners. So mine in particular is the North East Child Poverty Commission, and just to see the work that they do to look at, to really get under the skin of why we have the levels of child poverty that we have in the North East and what we can do about that. And there are levers that governments can pull to alleviate levels of child poverty. So it's just a really important one to me, because this is one of the things that this sort of stuff is a choice. We don't have to have as many people in poverty as we've got in the North East and in the UK, and there are policy levers that can be pulled to alleviate it. And it's as I say, very small team, do some brilliant work. What's important? What the appeal of that one, I guess, is for me, is that it's a lot of my background has been in sort of policy development, as I say, lobbying and public affairs and all that. And it is that, so we don't write checks and buy a nice bit of a kit or equipment or whatever, which is all great. And there's a big part for that, of course, in the third sector, and those charities that do that are brilliant. But this is quite dry stuff. This is quite, sort of serious, sort of under the bonnet stuff, if you like. It's looking at policy rather than, here's a donation towards a bit of kit or whatever. It's about trying to really get to the root causes of poverty.
No, it's nice, because what's also nice that I think people will, if anyone watches the full interview, it's you do speak to some people that would do your job because of the title. As actually, I love it when people do stuff because they're genuinely passionate about a topic and they want to make a difference. And I think that rarely kind of comes across, which again is part of the beauty of doing long form kind of content, because you get to dig in a little bit deeper and that kind of thing. I tend to round off my interviews with a few different kind of questions and stuff, and then I'm going to ask you if there's anything you want to plug at the end.
Okay.
This is actually my favourite bit because I'd learn a lot from this as well.
Okay.
I've been really interested to kind of go through your backstory and your career history in the chamber and stuff. But what's the best piece of advice you ever had?
Good question. I can't think of anything specific. I'm not one for kind of getting a slogan printed out and putting it in a frame and sticking it on the wall and sort of that's my sort of guiding principle for the day. But what I have done through my career is I've been very mindful of sort of just picking up best practices from different people I've worked with and worked for. And I think that has influenced hopefully how I lead a team. So I think, everything around surround yourself with good people, and treat all of them the same. Doesn't matter what level of the organization they are, above you, below you, on a par with you, whatever. They are all contributing, and you need them, and you will need them all at some stage. So treat them all exactly the same way. And I think in terms of style, and I have picked this up through various people I've worked with and for, there's definitely a place for business planning and for planning in life. But I think more important than that is having a set of principles and values, having a vision of where you want to get to, and then relying on the principles and values to help you get there. Whereas if you have a plan and you stick rigidly to it, there are so many variables that you can't control that can just knock that plan off course. So, but if you've got your principles and values, they are, they can't be knocked out. They are, if they're yours, and nobody can knock them out of you. So have your principles and values, have your vision of where you want to get to, and keep adhering to those principles and values on the way.
No, that's class. No, I think it's funny that sometimes one of my pet peeves, especially online, is when people want quick fixes. They want the get rich quick, they want the lose weight in 2 weeks, or become a millionaire. And the truth is, it is just the repetition of good behaviors and practice. And just, I think that completely what you said as well. It's almost for me, it's the approach, the ethics, your mentality to something. That even if you try your best, but it's a car crash, as long as you didn't do it maliciously and you just, that's okay. And then you just learn and get better and that kind of thing. If you were to give advice to your younger self, and it could be to try harder at school, it could be whatever, or it could even be not to bet on Saturday's game. If you could to give advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Take your time, enjoy the journey, learn from everything and everybody and every experience that you can.
Oh, that's good.
That'll be it. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Is there anything you would like to talk about or plug before we go?
Plug. Join the chamber. Have a look at our website. Join the chamber. Contact me directly. We've got we'll put you in touch with our membership team. Be part of something bigger, as I say. And one of the things I'm really, really pleased about, which we're just looking at right now in the chamber, is we talked a little bit about COVID earlier on and kind of coming out of COVID. We, as you'd expect, lost some members during the COVID period where they just, unfortunately sort of came out of doing that sort of thing. We're seeing a real increase now in those businesses, particularly the smaller businesses that came out in the chamber during COVID, that are now coming back into it. And that is brilliant. So if I was to plug anything, join the chamber. If you'll allow me one more plug, we put a story out today from the chamber. I'm doing the Great North Run for the Children's Foundation.
Oh,
wow. And they are putting together, they've got a plan to provide every family with every newborn baby in the Northeast in the next 5 years with something called a MAM box. And in these MAM boxes, they've got all sorts of bits of kit and materials and things that a newborn baby needs just in the first days, weeks, months of their life. And there's all sorts of research that shows that actually that is such a critical period in setting a young baby, becoming a young child, becoming an older child, becoming an adult, off on the right course in life. And these boxes are absolutely brilliant. And there's, they've never been, Brendan Foster gave a really nice quote for the press release that's gone out today about this thing. And he said that, this foundation's work has never been more needed than it is today. And it's things that becomes really stark to me is the box that this thing comes in with all the kit that's involved, that's included in the box, can actually be converted into a safe cot for the baby. And when you think about it, putting a baby to sleep in a cot that is a box is
tough.
That's hard to get your head around. But there are people, unfortunately, who will rely on that. And therefore, I'm doing the Great North Run for that. So again, it's all over my social media today. It's on LinkedIn, it's on Twitter, it's on all of that. Just Giving pages there. Go and have a look at that. If you can give me a couple of quid, that'd be great.
Spot on. Cool. I was going to ask if there's anyone to plug, but I guess not. Predictions for...
Yeah, I'll do it again.
Predictions for Liverpool for next season?
We'll win the European Cup in Istanbul.
Do you think Mane is going to stay, or do you think he'll go?
I think he'll go.
Do you think Salah's going to stay?
I think he'll stay.
Ooh. But, you know, it is what it is. But
Let's have a look at this in 12 months' time, Steve. Let's see how we got on.
So that's the beauty of this, because this goes onto YouTube, so it will be here in 12 years' time. It will be there in 12 years' time, but it'll be there in 12 months' time as well. John, it's been a pleasure to speak to you today. I know you've got your dinner tonight. Have fun. Don't get drunk. Good luck with the, you know, the fundraising and all the different initiatives. They're all kind of really, really good stuff. I will, when we clip this up and we'll get out, I'll link them all. So I'll link to your Just Giving page and all the other stuff as well. It's been a pleasure to catch up. I know it's been a while, but I guess with Zoom and COVID, it's been a while for everyone. But I'm sure I will see you around at some point, and have a wonderful evening.
That would be great. And thanks very much, Steve. It was great to chat.
No worries. Speak soon.
Cheers.
Bye.